Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Erika Giampietro, and I am the proud executive director of the Massachusetts Alliance for Early College. Thank you so much to President Heineman for hosting us today, and thank you to you all for being here. I have the honor of making some introductory remarks and offering some appreciations before Manny introduces us to the agenda and the plan for this morning. And this is truly an honor. We are in the room today with barrier breakers and bridge builders. From seats in the legislature to seats in classrooms, the group in this room has spent the last 3 years in a pandemic, not merely getting through it, but innovating. At the Alliance, we often find ourselves in conversation with early college program leaders, asking questions like, how's it going? What's getting in the way? What do you need? Or saying, we know it's a struggle right now just to get students to school or to sufficiently space your desks. But would you be interested in piloting an entirely novel concept? Shannon Gardner. Is Shannon in the room? Yes. Shannon leads the early college work in Lynn Public Schools and is implementing both of the innovations that we're here to celebrate today. And Shannon's response to that question, I think, is really reflective of all of the teams in the room today. Shannon, when we spoke 2 years ago for the first time, we talked about this concept of the early college promise, or a fifth year. And you put your hands over your head, and you were exhausted. You were working on fumes. You were mentally and physically spent, very concerned about the lives of your students. And when you put your hands in your head, I thought, we were done. I started thinking of other districts we could talk to. And then you put your head up and you said, yes, yes. I don't know how we're going to pull this off, but this is exactly what our students need. You and so many others here for the last 2 years have been systematically removing barriers between students and college through creativity and sheer grit. You've been doing yeoman's work. By the way, I know Shannon is probably the least attention-seeking person I know, so apologies for the attention, Shannon. Now, a bit of bad news and then some good news. 2 weeks ago, Newsweek published this exclusive that you see here. It says, the future is rough for Generation COVID. They cite that college enrollment is down 10%, double that for Black and Latino students. They say that while entry-level jobs are paying $17 or $18 an hour and may seem an attractive alternative to college, that those jobs have no upward mobility, and they're the first ones to go when there is economic downtimes. The article goes on to say that the wage premium of a college degree has never been higher. Especially in a state like Massachusetts, college matters more than ever. Now the good news. Early college is a model that works. It is succeeding in delivering college degrees, and especially for students who are underrepresented in college. In Massachusetts, we are fast out of the gate with thousands of students across the state partaking. But the challenge is that this has gotten us to about 2 to 4% of the high school population of Massachusetts. We need to be more at 15% to truly change the landscape of opportunity here. So let's get to work. And speaking of work, allow me to acknowledge the legislative leadership in the room today. Early college funding has grown significantly over the last 2 years, and that's thanks in part to all of the folks in this room and the legislature. In the room is Representative Tucker in Salem, Senator Crichton in Lynn, and on behalf of Senator Lovely, Joe Wakeland. Thank you all for being here. I also want to recognize city leaders for your bold actions. Mayor Nicholson of Lynn, Mayor Driscoll of Salem, and on behalf of Mayor DePena of Lawrence, we have Tomas Mitchell. I also want to recognize our education leadership in the room. It is hard to overstate the work that you and your teams do day in and day out. President Heineman of North Shore Community College, President Hopi of Merrimack College, Superintendent Ruggiero of Lynn Public Schools, Superintendent Paris, saw you in the back, of Lawrence, Superintendent Boyd of Lowell, and Superintendent Reich of Salem. Thank you all for being here. And also state leaders. Today we're joined by Chair Gabrieli of the Board of Higher Education and the Early College Joint Committee. Chris, you have been an inextinguishable advocate for this work. Member Hills of the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education and also the Early College Joint Committee is here, as well as Member Toner of the Board of Higher Education and also the Early College Joint Committee. Thanks to you both and other members of the Joint Committee, we have enthusiastic cross-silo governance of early college here in Massachusetts. And Commissioner Riley of the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Commissioner, you have been a pioneer in early college. As superintendent in Lawrence, you built an ambitious and successful program that continues to be a bar raiser in the state. And you and your team at DESE, many members of whom are here today, along with the Department of Higher Education and the Executive Office of Education, your work has been central to the progress of this effort. And we are so pleased that we're joined by soon-to-be Commissioner Ortega of the Department of Higher Education. Dr. Ortega, we believe this may be your first public appearance, as we know you're being sworn in on November 1st. Thank you so much for being here. We really look forward to working with you and your team. I'm so excited by the deep experience and commitment to equity that you bring to this work. Amanda Dew, the Deputy Policy Director for Maura Healey's campaign, is here as well, and we are grateful also to Governor Baker and his team, who have been great champions as well. And finally, thank you to our event co-sponsors today. We have an awesome set of partners in this work: Latinos for Education, the Massachusetts Business Alliance for Education, Mass Inc., and the Mass Hire North Shore Workforce Board. I will now pass things to our event MC, Manny Cruz. Manny is here today as our board member at the Alliance and so many other things. He is the Massachusetts Advocacy Director for Latinos for Education, Vice Chair of the Salem School Committee, and Manny recently won the Democratic primary to be the next state representative for the city of Salem and faces no Republican challenger this November. So Manny is on his ways to filling the big shoes of Paul Tucker and serving us well in the legislature next year. Manny, thank you.
Thank you so much, Erika, for that kind introduction. Good morning.
Good morning.
We're lively today, but maybe a little bit more. Good morning.
Good morning.
There we go. Thank you all so much today for being in attendance and participating in today's event. On behalf of the MA Alliance for Early College, we are so excited to be here to be celebrating such an innovative pathway being opened right here in the North Shore. My name is Manny Cruz, and I have the honor of serving as the Massachusetts Advocacy Director at Latinos for Education, the Vice Chair of the Salem School Committee, and the State Representative-elect for the City of Salem. And I'm the first Afro-Latino to serve in all three of these roles. But I was a first-generation college student before I held them. I was raised by a single mother whose education ended in the 6th grade. But my mother always impressed upon me the importance of getting an education, the reason why she came to this country from the Dominican Republic. She pushed me to seek mentors, role models, even when she knew I was struggling, because she understood that I had God-given talent and potential. And I became fortunate through my experience in the Salem Public Schools, that I met organizations like Leap for Education, the Boys and Girls Club, and mentors in the classroom who saw that potential, even though at that time I maybe had a 2.0 GPA my sophomore year of college when I was walking through some of these doors. These organizations instilled a deep belief that I could succeed. They took me on tours of Salem State University, Northeastern, and I knew that I wanted to attend college, so I shifted gears engaged in rigor. And in my last 2 years of high school, I had a 3.6 GPA, and I graduated from Northeastern after transferring from Salem State cum laude with honors. This is the promise of programs like early college. I would like to express my gratitude to the members of the Alliance, Mass Inc., the Massachusetts Business Alliance for Education, our key partners in philanthropy like the Smith Foundation, and the collaboration that it takes to advance key issues like early college in our state. I'm grateful that our co-hosts, the Mass Hire North Shore Workforce Board, have decided to also join us in ongoing advocacy and collaboration. At Latinos for Education, we are so proud to be a part of this coalition. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with us, we are an organization that is national, a national education nonprofit that is focused on developing, placing, and connecting essential Latino leadership in the field of education, while also mobilizing our community to influence decision makers to advance key policy reforms and budgetary investments around educator diversity, early college, and other educational equity strategies. And I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that today we are acknowledged by our founder, Amanda Fernandez, the CEO of Latinos for Education. Amanda, thank you for being here today. As the Massachusetts Advocacy Director at Latinos for Education, it's been such a privilege to work with you all to advance our shared goal of expanding early college and bringing this program to scale to serve 45,000 students. That is our goal. We will bring it to fruition, and the reason is clear. By investing in early college as a Commonwealth, we can double the college degree attainment rate for students of color and students from low-income homes. At a scale of 45,000 students, we would be able to close a quarter of the state's college success equity gaps by race and income, especially for Black and Latino students. And this will benefit thousands of students beyond that. We are so grateful for the state and local leaders, the administration, Commissioner Riley and Commissioner Santiago, for all of the partnership that they have engaged in. The legislature has been truly a partner in this area. This year alone, they committed $19 million to early college. So Senator Creighton, Representative Tucker, I thank you for the role that you played in investing in this program, as both of your districts have early college programs. So what can you expect from today's program? Today you will hear from students, state and local leaders, educational leaders in districts and higher education officials who are working diligently to elevate the great work happening in early college and who are striving for our Commonwealth to be more equitable and to grow. And with that, I'm pleased to introduce our first speaker, our host, the president of North Shore Community College, Dr. William Heineman. President Heineman previously served as the provost of Northern Essex Community College and has served as the president of North Shore Community College since 2021. He's been an active supporter of early college. The early college program has played an instrumental role in the opening of the new wall-to-wall early college program on this campus, which we are here to celebrate today. Please join me in welcoming President Heineman.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you, Manny, for that introduction. And we are so excited to be hosting this event today. I want to welcome you on behalf of the faculty and the staff and over 4,000 students of North Shore Community College. The memorandum of understanding that we're going to sign in a few minutes is an exemplar of an incredible amount of hard and really, really fast work that's gone on over the last 7 or 8 months here. And I want to start out by thanking Deb Ruggiero and the entire Lynn Public Schools team and also our North Shore team for getting that work done. Can we have a round of applause for those folks? So I just want to recognize 2 folks in the room from Northern Essex. Adam Cutler is in the back. He's our Dean of Strategic Partnerships. And also Nadira McDonald, who's our Executive Director of K-12 Partnerships. These are the folks that are in the trenches every day doing the work, along with Superintendent Ruggiero's team. So thank you so much. So I want to give credit where credit is due this morning. The idea for this school was brought to me by former Superintendent Patrick Tutwiler. He brought that idea to me just a few months after I got here last year, and he said, let's open a full 4-year high school on your campus. And I said, okay, let's do it. So that might seem like a little bit of a risky decision to make that early. I didn't know the names of everybody who worked here yet. But I actually didn't think it was that big a risk, and I'll give you a couple of reasons why. The first one is that I really just thought the times called for that. We've all seen the data. Manny was just giving you some of the data about long-standing equity gaps for low-income students, for students of color at all levels of Massachusetts education. And we all know that COVID made it worse. And so it seemed to me that the moment called for bold action and not more incremental change. The second reason it was a pretty easy decision to make was that I'd already seen early college work well. I had a long career up at Northern Essex Community College before this, had the opportunity to work with a bunch of people in this room who were in Lawrence and Haverhill and the other districts up there. And it's really rare you find an intervention that's so effective consistently at addressing an educational and societal problem. And so that part was easy. The other thing I learned during more than 10 years of doing this work is the rest of it isn't easy. The planning, the execution, you can have 2 amazing teams really committed, and you start to realize just how different high school and college is. The curriculum, the course schedules, the student conduct rules, you add in transportation and everything else. It's a thicket of stuff that you've got to work through. So it's not easy to make it work, but once you get the model, it's really, really successful. So I want to thank the leadership team here at this college. I didn't ask their permission when I made that decision. They found out after I said yes, right? And so they've stepped up over the last 9 months to make it happen. I want to thank the school committee here in Lynn for its support. This is a bold idea for both institutions, and it takes courage, and their support is really, really meaningful. I want to thank the support of the city. Mayor Nicholson's support has been very strong for this effort. We're collaborating in lots of ways together, but it makes so much sense at this level. Finally, I want to thank our Board of Trustees here at the college. Long before I got here, Chair LaRocque and others were supporting early college efforts here at North Shore. We're serving 7 times as many students as we were 3 years ago in early college, with 12 different districts around our service area. Lynn is by far our biggest partner, but we have strong partnerships in Revere, Saugus, and Salem. It's great that Superintendent Ruggiero is here and Mayor Driscoll. And we believe this can be groundbreaking work everywhere. So I'm looking forward to signing the MOU. I'm looking forward to the work that remains in front of us. There's still a lot of it, right, Deb? And thank you all for being here. The support you give us is what helps us get through those challenging times. So whether it's funding, whether it's policy adjustments, whether it's coaching, or just plain cheerleading, it matters. So thank you so much for your support, and I'm going to turn the podium now back to Manny. All right.
Well said, Mr. President. I'm looking forward to our continued partnership, and your dedication to this program is going to be vital for its future success. And please remember that Salem is only a broom ride away, so if you need us, call us. And it is now my distinct pleasure to introduce our next speaker, the Superintendent of the Lynn Public Schools, Superintendent Deb Ruggiero. Superintendent Ruggiero has been leading the Lynn Public Schools since August of 2022. I'm so happy that the President acknowledged the contributions of Dr. Tutwiler. He was an incredible leader, and I know that you were his deputy. And in your distinguished career as an administrator and as an educator, you've been a strong champion of programs like early college in the Lynn Public Schools. The Lynn Public Schools currently has almost 700 students that are enrolled in the early college program, the early college promise program, and Lynn has been a leader in early college and at the forefront of innovation, especially with this new event here today, opening up an early college high school. I now invite Superintendent Ruggiero to join us at the microphone.
Wow. I have to say, as a woman who grew up in Lynn and went through the Lynn Public Schools, this is quite overwhelming, and I'm quite honored to be able to stand up here speaking to you. I would be remiss if I did not start by saying thank you to everyone in this room. It truly takes a village to get things done, and I think this work exemplifies that. A special thank you to Shannon Gardner and the North Shore Community College team and the Salem State University team for working and being great thought partners in this work. We could not have done it without all of us. We began together a decade ago, and although it has not been easy and messy at times, together we are forging a new pathway and opening new opportunities for our students. We strive together to create supportive models for our students and to come into alignment with each other in order to do that. Along the way, our relationships with staff at North Shore Community College have intertwined around a shared goal. We want to open doors of opportunity. Through our early college partnerships across the city, over 30 classroom doors opened this fall for hundreds of students taking North Shore Community College and Salem State University classes. Our partnership has grown strong and expansive. Here at the official opening of Frederick Douglass Collegiate Academy, we have made an investment in our students' future that we believe will have a resounding impact on early college outcomes for Lynn students. Students here have the opportunity to complete an associate's degree and also the possibility of transferring to Salem State with half their college degree completed. As someone who grew up in a housing project in Lynn within a large family of 6 children, to a mom who was only able to complete her 8th grade education, but worked so hard to keep our family afloat, I know all too well how difficult it is to pay for college degrees when a family needs all of their financial resources just to survive. Commuting to college on a bus, 2 trains, and a 10-minute walk through Harvard's campus, and working 3 jobs so that I was not a burden financially on my family, I truly understand the student and family struggle. I have devoted my entire career to Lynn students. I'm thrilled to be here and sign off on the launch of this school. The doors we're opening here in Lynn lead somewhere real and tangible. They lead to making of dreams into reality. Sharing the words from our students themselves, one student said, "To me and my family, it means a lot that I'm in this school because I'm being given college classes and they are free. And I'm the first person in my family to be able to take college classes because my parents didn't get to finish school." Another student shared, "It's important for me to be a student in the school because I'm able to take college classes as a high school student and earn college credits. Earning these college credits will save me time and money in the future. Furthermore, it's important for me to be a student in this school because I get to learn better and experience college at a younger age. To me and my family, being part of this school means being able to save more money. If I didn't go to this school, I might need to work more in the future and be able to pay for my college funds." I have always seen inside our students the greatness that is and the greatness to come. Earlier I spoke of doors to opportunity. Our students walk through our doors for only a time in their lives, and then they bring their strengths, talents, and gifts to the world. I could not be more proud of our Lynn High School students striving in early college and challenging themselves at the Frederick Douglass Collegiate Academy. Today is a great day for the city of Lynn. Thank you.
Well said, Superintendent, and thank you for centering the voices of students. It's why we're here. And I enjoyed this really strong working relationship with your predecessor on advocacy for educational equity, and I look forward to building one with you as well. It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce our next speaker, a third-term school committee member, and my dear friend, Brian Castellanos. Brian and I were both elected to the school committee in the same exact year, and Brian and I also serve on the board of Leap for Education. He's a proud graduate of the Lynn Public Schools and Framingham State University, and I've seen his work up close. He's a proud Latino, a leader for this community, and he will continue to strive for greater educational equity and inclusive schools. Brian, please join us.
So I gotta set my little, I got rituals, you know, morning rituals, coffee, singing, you know, sitting in the car talking to myself before I came in. Manny, that was beautiful. I appreciate you very much. It's always a pleasure to connect with Manny Cruz. If you don't know Manny, he's actually one of my inspirations. He's someone for me that really, honestly, I aspire to be. My script, I actually titled my script. It was Don't Quit, Just Believe. And first of all, I want to start by just telling everyone how humbled I am to be here with you all today. And I'll be remiss if I didn't recognize some of my support systems in the room. I have actually some great colleagues from the school committee in the back, Donna Coppola and Lorraine Gately from the Lynn School Committee. I have my secretary, Mary Jules, in the back. It's really it's an honor to be here. And I want to thank you all, for all of you today here, joining us here at this wonderful event from North Shore Community College and hosting us here. It's an honor. And again, I'm here today to give some remarks centered on belief. As I stand here in this space to mark the launch of this school, I know that it would not have happened if it were not for the true heart of belief of the educators of Lynn Public Schools and the North Shore Community College and our Lynn students. It wouldn't have happened without the hard work at the state level to give rise to early college innovations. Every time we take a chance and innovate in education, we ground our choices on belief, and we do what we do with compassion. As a graduate of Lynn Public Schools and Salem State University, let's not forget Salem State, our other great partner. I want to share with you why I so personally deeply believe in the students of this school and what the promise of this school truly means. I believe because myself am a first-generation low-income Venezolano, the son of Jerry John Castellanos from Maracaibo, Venezuela. A janitor by trade, my father instilled in me the courage and fighter spirit to endure life's many adversities and sorrows. You see, I wasn't always this person you see in front of you. When I was a little boy, the dream of ever reaching a college degree always felt very far away. I always felt that my life was initially engineered for failure. I faced many struggles in my young life. I would have a stepmother abandon my father and I due to her struggles with mental illness and drugs. I had a brother and bio mother lose their life to cancer. It was plagued with housing instability, food insecurities, and lethal dosages of childhood trauma. Being a first-generation low-income student isn't just a buzzword for me. It's my everyday pain and struggle. I didn't have family who ever pursued higher education or enough social capital to plan out my educational endeavors. My life trajectory, if you were to really weigh things out, the environment I come from, the poverty, the adversity, they would say it is impossible for someone like you to be where you are today. And I'm here to tell you that it is in fact possible. And I'm here as a living testament. My father gave me the greatest gift anyone could give another person. He believed in me. My father's belief in me drove me. It drove me. I completed my bachelor's degree at Framingham State University with a 3.6 GPA. I would later pursue and successfully complete my master's degree at Salem State University with a 3.8 GPA. I purchased my own home in the great city of Lynn. I'm engaged to a wonderful woman. I'm a third-term elected Lynn School Committee official, and I'm a licensed social worker. I'm here before you today as a person with many blessings and a willingness to give back to my community. As a result of my education and moral imperative, I have dedicated my life's work towards protecting children from abuse and neglect at the local, state, and federal level. I've had the opportunity to advocate for child victims with passion and integrity. As an elected Lynn School Committee member, I have made it my promise and obligation to ensure Lynn Public Schools remains committed to serving our most vulnerable first-generation low-income students and families. It's not a mistake that I have come full circle now to concern myself with schools. It's why I support amazing innovations like this. What my life is today versus what it could have been is what can happen when a person has belief surrounding them and opportunities to succeed. That's how we together make a difference in Lynn. I ask all leaders out there in today's audience, will you keep your promise? All the educators and my fellow elected officials, I know you share in my pride, and I thank you for what you do to make this all come together for the good of our students and the good of our city. Frank Warren once stated, "It's the children the world almost breaks who grow up to save it." I want to thank you for the opportunity to share these thoughts with you all today, and God bless you.
Brian, so powerful every time. It's interesting that you would say that you aspire to be like me, because I aspire to be like you, my friend. And this brings me to our next speaker, another colleague who is a former Lynn School Committee member and who recently began his term of office as the new mayor of the city of Lynn, Mayor Jared Nicholson. Mayor Nicholson has focused on delivering inclusive growth through better schools, better housing, better jobs, better infrastructure, and more peace in the community. I know firsthand the importance of having a strong mayor when it comes to public education. The fact that Mayor Nicholson began his career in public service as a school committee member is a testament to his belief in our students. And that is why I'm so excited that he has played this instrumental role in the creation of the first ever early college high school on this college campus, because I know that this innovation will pay dividends for Lynn generation of students to come. Mayor Nicholson, please join us at the podium.
Good morning, everyone. It is such an honor to have everyone here today. As you can see, this is such a proud moment for the city of Lynn, and I'm so grateful for everyone who made it possible. This is really a pioneering effort to have this high school on a college campus, and we are so thrilled to mark the occasion. And it's one that's been a long time coming. Our experimentation with early college goes back years and years over the course of multiple superintendents. When I first joined the school committee in 2016, there was a pilot going, and this has been years and years of iteration, improvement, reflection, driven by students. Students who are willing to step up and try something new, to stretch themselves into these early college programs, and we're so grateful for it to have come as far as it has. And one of the things I think is really striking when we reflect on the moment is that we think of ourselves in the Lynn Public Schools as a pre-K to 12 system, K to 12. That's a part of the system. This is totally changing that paradigm of a pre-K to 12 system. And it's truly inspiring to be part of that innovation when we think about how we educate our students here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So many folks have worked so hard for this to come to fruition. Shannon Gardner has been a leader on this work for years and years, and it's so special to have her here. My colleagues on the school committee, Member Castellanos, did a wonderful job explaining the power of this through his story, and my colleagues, Member Capola, Member Gabrieli, who are here, other members of the school committee. Superintendent Ruggiero has really driven this effort. Dr. Patrick Tutwiler, as you heard earlier, brought it to the next level, and it's gone back over the course of multiple administrations. Our teachers who have stepped up to try something new, because this is brand new for them too, to figure out how to do this, how to teach in this context, and to support educators who go along with that, and then most of all the students and families who raise their hand, challenge themselves, step up to our challenges as a community. It's just so special to see that come together. And it is hugely important for those students, for those families. It's also a really exciting moment for the city when we think about where we're going, what our needs are from a workforce development perspective, to see these skills being laid out for that next generation that's going to be taking over our community, and to have those pathways really built in towards college and career readiness in ways that they've never been done before. We saw the statistics earlier about what the pandemic has done. I just want to share a little bit of what that looks like here in the city of Lynn. A couple of years ago, the 2018-2019 school year, the DESE data for the plans of our high school graduates was about 3/4 of our graduates, LPS graduates, plan to go to higher education, 74%. This most recent year, that number was 50%, 50. That's a huge change over the course of the pandemic. And then the next number I'm going to share, I think, speaks even more closely to what our goals here are, because you see the 50% of graduates that plan to go to higher education. And then you look at the actual percentage of graduates who enroll in higher education, and there's another significant drop-off. 2018, 2019, it went from 74% of graduates wanted to enroll, and about 54% did. And this most recent year, 50% said they wanted to enroll, and only 37% did. 37%. So every year, you have at least a couple hundred LPS graduates who raise their hand and say, yes, I plan to go to higher education, and it doesn't work out for them. And I think that just speaks to the imperative that we all have to really guide them through these paths that are tremendously difficult to figure out if you've enrolled in higher education. For everyone, and particularly for folks who don't have that life experience, don't have those prior generations to tap into. And so that's our job, to make that easier, to make sure that those barriers are overcome. And it's programs like this that help us do that, which is why it's such an honor for us to be here today to sign this memo. They have, the group here has given me the honor of actually physically presenting the memo, which is risky because I'm also a lawyer. So why would you give an unsigned contract to a lawyer at the very end? You never know what's going to happen. No, so it is my honor to present this memorandum of understanding between North Shore Community College and Lynn Public Schools to President Heineman and Superintendent Ruggiero to sign today. Congratulations.
We have 4 of these to sign.
We're turning back now.
All right, one down.
exciting.
Congratulations. How exciting. And Mayor Nicholson, excellent job. I think the framing there was so important. And I told you that I had this firsthand experience of knowing how important it is to have a mayor who will push for innovation in education. And that is because today I'm joined by my mayor, our next speaker, the Honorable Kim Driscoll. And I've known Mayor Driscoll since I was a student in middle school. And now I'm her colleague on the school committee. But all throughout my experience in the Salem Public Schools with the mayor serving, I saw a leader who was present, always visiting schools. And then when I became interested in youth leadership and started to express my desire to give back to my community, a mayor who took the time to just share with me her experience moving here to Salem, playing basketball, but then finding this deep desire to enter into public service. And I could always pick her brain on things. And I even called her when I was making this heart-wrenching decision to leave my hometown to go to Northeastern, and she said, Manny, my trip was much shorter to yours. That will be a lot easier. And now as a school committee member, I've had this distinct honor of seeing her fight for our kids. This is why we do the work that we do for future generations. We are good stewards. And that is why I'm so excited about Mayor Driscoll and her leadership in our city and our Commonwealth and the work that she does to empower all those who would call Salem and the Commonwealth home. Mayor Driscoll was an early supporter of early college and also encouraged Salem to get more involved with great organizations like Mass Hire and to build stronger integrations. And with that, I invite my dear friend Kim Driscoll to the microphone.
Well, this is a feel-good morning, isn't it? Jeez. Congratulations. That was fantastic to be here for the signing of this innovation happening at a time that we couldn't need it more. I'm so thrilled to be a part of my community in Salem and frankly the community on the North Shore. We often say that the North Shore is very collegial. We don't compete. Lynn, Salem, Beverly, Peabody, we're in each other's backyards all the time. You might live in one community, you work someplace else, you go to school someplace else. I think it really serves our region well. I'm just curious by a show of hands, how many folks have attended, attended either Salem State or North Shore Community College? You just get, put them up loud and proud, right? I think this goes, from my perspective, to speak how important these institutions are in our region. Oftentimes I am in rooms where there are many of us who are graduates of Salem State or North Shore Community College, and I really want to champion the work of our public higher ed institutions for what they're doing to contribute to the leadership in our communities. Not just folks who are in elected offices, but our future teachers, nurses, business entrepreneurs are coming from our higher ed institutions. I say that as a proud graduate of Salem State myself and recognizing the important role these institutions, both the community colleges and our higher ed institutions, play in our communities every day. As mayor and chair of the school committee, I've definitely seen firsthand the benefits of our early college program with our students and family, both with our school culture, for our staff, for our educators, and definitely for our partner institutions. We're so fortunate to have a university right in our midst, right in Salem, and a community college right down the road. We're hoping to make it easier to get between the two of them via train very soon, both in South Salem and in Lynn. That is one of the barriers we know so many of our students have, frankly, so many of our staff have, getting back and forth. Many of our students who are uncertain about college, could they cut it? Could they afford it? How would they do it? As part of our early college program, we're now on college campuses as part of their experience, their regular schedule. I can vividly recall our first cohort of junior students proudly displaying their Salem State College ID cards, their Clipper cards, wearing it every chance they had, right out, every day. They had an extra bounce in their step. There were big shots on campus at Salem High when they were there because they were college students as well. They got to eat in the dining hall. They saw that college students were exposed to a little bit more freedom, had a little bit more independence. And most importantly, they saw themselves, their future selves, particularly given that our partner institutions are so diverse. Seeing yourself in a space and being able to achieve success there while doing it is just such a powerful motivator, and they wore it on their sleeves every single day. Now, I'll also say that many of our students participating in our early college program always envisioned themselves going to college. It wasn't a question of whether they were going, maybe where. One or both of their parents had college degrees. The expectations were set for them early in life. The benefits to these students of gaining early college experience, gaining that entry, was that they also gained the lived experience. They got to consider what traits they valued when selecting higher ed institutions. Did they want to be at a big college campus or a smaller school environment? Were they comfortable with this on-ramp into higher ed right in the universities they were at? Many of our early college students who came from families who had college attainment already were on-ramping to Salem State and to North Shore Community College. They got a part of their college paid for. Many families were very excited about that. If you can gain up to 12 credits before you even start your freshman year in college, think about that difference that makes, either to the students themselves from a college loan perspective, and certainly the families paying the price. For our higher ed partners, they had a whole new group of students who became potential customers. They not only helped close opportunity gaps for these aspiring, now on-campus students, but gained a better foothold on understanding that our students just didn't attend college, but thrived once they got there full-time. How do we make sure that's the case? It's one thing to get in, it's another to graduate, which is the end game for students on all of our higher ed campuses. We were early college adopters before the pandemic in Salem, but frankly, I think the benefits will be even greater as we work with our students and staff to recover in this new post-pandemic environment. COVID has brought an unimaginable level of disruption to our students and staff on our typical educational routines. In many ways, COVID has showed us the future. District ramped up technology investments, both for students and staff. We all learned new virtual ways of doing just about everything, including teaching and learning. This level of disruption has definitely impacted our students far beyond academic deficits. The freedom of virtual learning, the independence from a rigid schedule, many of the flexibilities we all enjoyed as adults, our students appreciated as well. And as we work through this next transition, those of us who are in schools on a regular basis know we are far from out of this pandemic. The impacts are there every single day. My biggest fear is inertia just brings us back to what we did before, and that's why it's so exciting to be here. We're not just going back to what we did before. Our kids aren't going to let us do that, and experiences in high school are going to have to change. They are telling us this. We need to innovate that experience. From our traditional early college program, starting with students in their junior and senior year, to the advancement of pilots, like the Early College Promise fifth year program, giving students an opportunity to earn their degree while also both a high school diploma and an associate's degree while still in school. This will provide many of our students, but particularly our Gateway City students, with a tremendous leg up on achieving a higher educational outcome. The end game is providing opportunities for our young adults, higher ed, career, etc., as early as possible. There's still many obstacles. We've talked about a lot of them here for many of our students. I remember Pat Gentile, maybe not in this room, we may have been in another, around the corner from here, talking about the fact that with a business group I happen to be a part of, the fact that they had anticipated a certain number of students to be arriving at North Shore Community College that September. And why didn't that happen? They had a 30% drop off. So they started calling the 30% of the students that didn't come. And they heard stories about, my muffler broke on my car. That's why I couldn't come this year. I had an unexpected expense that arose. I didn't get my financial aid forms in time, and now I'm delayed, and I'm just gonna have to start the next semester. You know what happens. You don't really start the next semester. You start working in a job, maybe they pay you a little bit, it seems like a lot when you're 18, and then you're not on a pathway on how to reconnect and get back in. All too often, that's the case for a lot of our hardworking, smart students in our gateway cities. It's just that one bump in the road that got in the way. That's why programs like this, early college, and all the connective tissue and scaffolding that goes along with it. I loved, Bill, that you said we had something that was hard and had to do it really, really fast. Because that's what this work is, hard, and we don't have time. Our kids don't have time, our families don't have time, and our gateway cities don't have time. Our educational attainments for adults living in our communities is far lower in the gateway cities than in so many of our other communities. Why is that important? We are already a high-cost state. We know that higher educational outcomes lead to higher incomes. We have to be able to connect those dots for our students in places far beyond wealthy suburbs. And that happens in gateway cities, where 25% of our high school graduates throughout the entire Commonwealth come from our gateway cities. Making it easier and seamless to meet these needs is going to be critical to the success of our Commonwealth, our competitiveness, and frankly, holding ourselves accountable. We often think of our systems as pre-K through 12. We don't even think about pre-K sometimes before, so we've made inroads there. How do we grow from that narrative, as Mayor Nicholson mentioned, to think about the success of our students, all the time and effort and data we collect from pre-K to 12, then we're done. But we all know we're not. And the success of our communities is upon all of us as we think about how to ensure that our students just don't arrive at college, but that they thrive when they get here. I think about this in the terms of our 400th anniversary in Salem. We will turn 2026, and there are just over a dozen communities in Massachusetts, given our rich history, that will all be hitting their 400th anniversary between 2020 and 2030. We tend to think about what kind of a community do we want to be in 2026? What's the promise we're making to entering kindergartners who are entering school in 2026? What's the expectation for our high school students who are entering into their formative high school years in 2026? Let's hope it involves an early college program that's affordable, that's seamless, that sets the expectations early that they're going to end their high school career on a track and a trajectory to graduate from college. Thanks for all the good work that everybody's doing to get there. I'm excited and optimistic about the future for us to work on this together.
Thank you so much, Mayor Driscoll. Always such a pleasure to hear from you and to really want to just thank you for pushing our thinking with respect to innovation. As we think about the future of our children and the urgency, I heard innovation, accountability, the need to redesign a high school experience and to create more connectivity across pre-K through 20. And that is going to be how we fundamentally transform our Commonwealth for our children. We cannot go back to 2019, and we must all beat the steady drum that we are going to be pushing for a future in which all of our children can succeed. And in order to do that, we have to understand the complexity of these problems and why we do this work. Why does early college matter? And so to do that, I'm really excited to introduce our next speaker, the founding executive director of the Massachusetts Alliance for Early College, welcoming back Erika to the stage. And I just want to say a few things because I'm a board member now and I get to supervise Erika. And I'm on a few different boards, and I'll say what I really appreciate about Erika is that she has vision for this alliance. We have a coalition of over 200 organizations who are pushing around scaling high quality early college. And we are doing the work. We are in the trenches with legislators, with districts. We are supporting folks. And I think that the elevation that we are seeing with early college is a real testament to the work that Erika has done to keep our coalition focused on the goal, which is serving our students. And by doing so, we're going to be expanding opportunities for all of them. We'll see higher college attainment. And over the next 5 years, when I sit in my office in Beacon Hill, I expect that in addition to Amanda, that Erika will be a frequent visitor in reminding me to continue to advocate for this program. Erika, please join me here at the podium.
You can count on that, Mary.
Today's event is focused on early college, but this isn't about college for its own sake. This is about access. It's about access to jobs that provide family-sustaining wages and the lives of dignity and civic engagement that enables. This is about the promise of public education and American democracy. This is about the civil rights and opportunities of every student in the Commonwealth. And the way you access those opportunities is with a college degree. Unfortunately, college degrees are not distributed equitably in our state. If you are white or non-low income, you have a 50% chance of having a college degree within 6 years of your high school graduation. If you are Black or Latino or from a low-income home, your odds are 20%. That's 1 in 5. So early college is poised to address 3 related issues. College success and affordability, yes, but also racial and economic equity and workforce development. These are issues that are always important, but increasingly so. In that light, I have 3 goals for my comments today. Number 1, you understand the current state of early college in Massachusetts. Number 2, you get to know the 2 innovations that we're here to celebrate today. And number 3, that we envision what the possibilities are for early college in this next chapter. So first, what is early college? I always like to start with what it is not. Early college is not what has become known nationally as random acts of dual enrollment, where students, and typically high-performing high school students, take a college class or 2. Here's what early college is. It's a deep partnership between a high school and a college, where students, and this is focused specifically but not exclusively on students of color and students from low-income homes, take strategically sequenced, transferable, true college classes during their regular high school day at no cost to themselves or their families. These classes have strong career orientations and count for both high school and college credit at the same time. And students receive academic and guidance supports to ensure that they thrive. So they graduate from high school with significant transferable credits, and this can be up to an associate's degree or 2 years worth of credit towards a 4-year degree. And that reduces the time to and cost of that degree completion. And really importantly, they graduate with the confidence, the skills, and the mindsets to be successful in college and career. They see themselves, they believe in themselves as college students, and more importantly, they see themselves as highly capable members of a society that is rich in opportunity. Over the past 5 years, this has grown to include 50 high schools in partnership with 24 colleges. That's 2-year, 4-year, public, and private. It is in 50% of gateway cities and serves about 6,000 students today. 2/3 of those students are students of color, and more than half are from low-income homes. Support for early college is equally strong at the highest levels of state leadership and also in our communities. That's one of my favorite things about early college. We are in our 9th designation cycle. I'm sure that the DESE team here and the others in the room can attest this is no small feat. There are 24 programs applying for designation this year. Last year there were 13 programs. 30 of our current programs recently applied for expansion and full school grants, opportunities to take their program deeper and wider. 41 districts cited early college as a focus area for their Student Opportunity Act plans, and 30 of those districts did not yet have early college. There's lots of interest in places that are not yet even on the map. And the reason so many communities are doing the hard things necessary to build early college is because it works. This analysis that you see is using a well-controlled matched peer methodology. That simply means this is a rigorous methodology where students are being compared to students who are like them on characteristics that we know matter. With these controls in place, we see a 15 to 16 percentage point bump, and that's really importantly consistent across race and income. These students are going to college and staying in college at much higher rates than similar students who do not do early college. And we know this translates to jobs and better opportunities. These are some of the strongest effect sizes for any single initiative happening now in Massachusetts. And importantly, what we hear from students is matching what we see in the data. Students are engaged and motivated by the relevance of their college courses and their connections to their future life. Let's talk about the innovations that we're here to celebrate today. You heard about the Frederick Douglass Collegiate Academy here at the North Shore Community College. You heard about this outstanding opportunity from the leaders here. I want to note that in all early college programs, students spend time on the college campus. But this is the first time in Massachusetts that that's full-time. They are in classrooms, they are in the cafeteria, the library, the tutoring center, and the gym, and teachers and leaders can collaborate even more closely given that physical proximity. And they'll have the opportunity, like we heard, to earn their associate's degree by the end of 12th grade. This model is predominant in some states like North Carolina and Texas, and the results are astounding. There's no doubt the Massachusetts version will be stunning. Second is what we call the Early College Promise Program, a fifth-year experience. And in a moment, you'll hear from Superintendent Boyd and Lowell about what they're building there. And you can see on this slide the other communities that are taking part in this pilot, Salem, Lynn, Lowell, Lawrence, and Haverhill that are here today. The idea here is simple. Extend the impact of early college programs by adding an optional fifth year. Students can earn an associate's degree or 2 years worth of credits towards a 4-year degree with those strong wraparound supports still in place. This is another innovation with precedent in other states. In Colorado, they recently formalized their fifth year, which they call the Ascent Program, in state law with no cap on the number of students who can partake, and that's because they're seeing outstanding results. Again, no doubt the innovation in Massachusetts will shine. Oops. Let's talk about what's possible for early college in this next chapter. The more than 100 members of the Alliance have a big goal. It's been mentioned a couple of times today. Our goal is to close a quarter of the statewide college success equity gap by race and income, and to benefit thousands of students beyond that. According to leading policy think tank and also co-sponsor today, Mass Inc., Ben, you're here in the back. This means 45,000 high school students, or about 11,000 to 12,000 seniors in early college each year. That represents serving 15% of all seniors in Massachusetts, up from about 4% today. A goal that feels both bold and feasible. And scale matters only so much, in so much that we do it with quality. That means adopting innovations like we see today, building more schools on college campuses, and extending the impact through fifth-year programs. Miguel Cardona, the Secretary of Education for the Biden administration, came to an event at the Ben Franklin Cummings Institute of Technology on Friday of last week. He was asked for his thoughts on early college, and this is what he said. Every high school in this country needs to have an early college program to give our students an opportunity to see what they can be, even when they don't dream that high. It needs to be that you are an outlier if you're not doing this in our country. He is seeing the impact of early college. And in closing, I want to reiterate, early college is not the end, but rather one of the means. A single but powerful enabler of productive, community-strengthening lives of opportunity. You each play a critical role in seeing early college grow and to seeing its impact expand. You each have done that in the most trying of times. I humbly ask you to keep making the hard changes necessary for early college and the opportunities that it enables to thrive.
Thank you, Erika, for your leadership and your invitation to us all to continue to do our part to ensure that this intervention is scaled up. The data today, paired with what we know about the student experience so powerful. And I'm really excited to introduce our next speaker. I've spent a fair amount of time with him over the last 2 years in my role as the advocacy director at Latinos for Education. And I can tell you that prior to that, I worked with him when I was in Lawrence as a legislative aide for a state representative, when he was the receiver of the Lawrence Public Schools. And he's been a long-standing champion of early college. Back in his days in Lawrence, which we all know at this point has one of the most robust programs in the entire state. And when I think about the commissioner's leadership to educational equity, it's very clear to me that there's a focus, that this administration has focused on drawing attention and resources to programs like early college because it works and the return on investment is very clear. No choice was more clear that the commissioner sees the value of this program than a decision to redirect ESSER dollars to the tune of $6 million to support innovation within early college. And Commissioner, I'm so grateful for the partnership that the Alliance enjoys with your administration, and I look forward to our continued work together. Commissioner Riley, please join us over here at the podium.
Have you ever been driving in your car and seen an older man running on the side of the road? But he isn't really running. He's really just walking quickly and moving his arms. Yeah, that's me now. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff Riley, Commissioner of Education for K-12. And a special welcome to Commissioner Ortega. Thanks for being here. Although I'm getting old, I'm always looking for new ideas and paths so that our kids can have a better experience. When I was in Lawrence 7 or 8 years ago now, we started early college because we saw that early college is one such path. In education is tough. Things aren't easy. There are very few silver bullets. It's hard, it's complicated, and it's hard to come by silver bullets. I would only say cite two. Early education is a silver bullet for children, and I think early college is a silver bullet for children, and the data matches that. And the reality is that students, particularly first-generation students, who are able to see college early in a supportive environment where they can learn where the library is, how to make a meeting with a professor, are more likely to go to college and persist through college. And let me assure you of this, there is nothing wrong with the children. It's about getting the adults organized. And so we, as a community, have to do a better job of getting organized so that our kids can get where they deserve to be. There is nothing wrong with the kids. We started in Lawrence 7 or 8 years ago. This is a picture. You see former Mayor Rivera and Governor Baker with the kids all in their sweatshirts. And when I spoke to the children, the high schoolers, I said to them something which they didn't expect. I said, I want you to do well in this program, not for you, but for your little brothers and sisters. Because almost all of them had little brothers and sisters, and they were watching. And my kids in Lawrence delivered on a scale that few people expected. They thrived in an early college program. Many of them got 4-year scholarships from being in this early college program. Many of them have gone into the workforce from this early college program. And it's really served as a bellwether for, I think, where we're trying to go and what we're trying to do, which is to give all of our kids an opportunity. Many of my students were first-generation students. Their parents hadn't gone through college. They didn't understand how to navigate the experience, from financial aid to housing. By creating a supportive environment during the high school years, we're able to give kids that support, but also allow them to achieve success. So they're almost coming into college ahead of everybody else because they've got credits. They know where the cafeteria is. They know who the best professors are. They have an early insight into it. And so it shouldn't be a surprise that students are more likely to enroll immediately and persist through college. I've been in Boston for a chunk of my career, and this was a problem in Boston and remains so across the state and the country, where we would see students from urban areas going to college and oftentimes washing out after a year with tens of thousands of dollars of debt around their neck. Was that because they were a failure? I would say no. It was because we did not prepare them and give them the support they need to succeed. Early college is that support. I'm so honored to see so many of you here that have done the work for kids, and I look forward to continuing this work with you, because in Massachusetts, we really can change the trajectory of our kids' lives through this program. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Commissioner, for your leadership, and really appreciate you bringing to life the children that we serve and the reason why we do this important work with early college. And at the Alliance, we're a coalition, but we're a coalition that believes in shared learning. So I'm really excited to welcome our next speaker, who has served as the 20th superintendent for the Lowell Public Schools. That's Superintendent Joel Boyd. And Lowell's another leading community when it comes to early college in the Merrimack Valley. They've served approximately 1,200 students across all grades and are providing this opportunity for every ninth grader in Lowell to experience the early college program. This type of commitment and innovation is so critically important, and I'm thrilled to see that Lowell is also engaged in the early college promise program, and that they have actually sent a second cohort to Middlesex Community College. I think that this speaks to the level of commitment we need to see from all of our gateway cities when it comes to this early college promise program, and I can't wait to hear more. Superintendent Boyd, please join us at the microphone.
So if I could, I want to start by recognizing the people I've brought with me. Our first graduate with a full associate's degree through our early college promise, Luis. Greatest principal in the Commonwealth just because he happens to be the principal of Lowell High School, Michael Fiata. And our partner at Middlesex Community College, the great President Phil Sisson's been unable to be here, but he does have his colleague, my colleague Melissa, here with us, so we can give her a round of applause. Now, I really appreciated all of the conversation, all of the discussion, and everyone's opening remarks, because I have a little bit of admission here. I'm not from Massachusetts. I'm from Delaware. I grew up as a Philadelphia sports fan. And last night was a late game. We are now 6-0. Tomorrow is the first in a decade of the Phillies playing in the National League Championship Series, and my Sixers tip off against your Celtics. So I didn't know what this little bit of a layover might be from Sunday night to Tuesday. But as I was hearing everybody's remarks, I was reminded of my mother. My mother was a single mother, shared much of the same stories as many of you. Growing up in the 80s, she was a diehard fan of Patrick Swayze. Now, Patrick Swayze had a movie in the 80s, and I know I'm dating myself. I imagine I'm older than most of you in the room here today. Certainly older than you, Luis, here, so follow along. Patrick Swayze was an actor. He had this movie, it was called Ghost. And within the movie Ghost, in order to prove himself to Demi Moore, who was his wife, and he, as a ghost, she couldn't see him, to prove himself, he had this phrase that when she spoke something, in this case, I love you, she spoke something that he agreed with, his response was, ditto. Ditto. And in order to prove himself, Whoopi Goldberg shared with Demi Moore, ditto. Does everybody remember this movie? Man, I'm not that old yet, right? So I found myself as I was sitting there saying, ditto, ditto. So I'm going to completely change my remarks here today, if that's okay with all of you. I'm going to go a different direction because I don't think that I need to repeat everything that was already shared with you. And I learned very early in my career, as I've been asked to speak publicly quite often, that there are three important things when you're speaking publicly, and that's to be bright, be brief, and be gone. So I'm going to try a little bit something different here and share a little bit with you on why and how for early college. We've heard why in terms of our students' data. We heard about the challenges of the pandemic. But what we didn't talk about too much is that our schools were facing a considerable amount of challenges prior to the pandemic. Our children in our classrooms were experiencing challenges prior to the pandemic. In many cases here in our communities such as Lowell, 75% of our children are identified as high needs. Within our communities, the odds are stacked against them. Brian spoke really passionately about the odds he had to overcome in order to deliver on his father's dream for himself. Those odds are tilted against our youngsters by more than just simply the pandemic. TNTP, the national organization, did a study of high schools prior to the pandemic, a couple of years prior to the pandemic, a study of high schools, how were children succeeding, what did it mean for the youngsters that were succeeding. They came out of that with a title to their research called The Opportunity Myth. What they found is that within our high schools, more than 70% of our young people are delivering on what we're expecting of them, yet just 17% are prepared for the next phase of their lives. They called it the opportunity myth because it's a mythology when we're sharing with our youngsters that a diploma is a key to the next state of their well-being. That diploma means less and less within our communities, within our country, unless we do something different about it. There's a statement and a saying within many of our very privileged and esteemed colleges and universities of look to your left, look to your right. Only one of you will succeed past these 4 years. I would suggest to you, look to your left, look to your right, look at the power and authority within this room, and each and every one of you, by your actions and inactions, have an opportunity to shift those odds in favor of our children, to shift that mythology from no longer being a mythology to being an opportunity, true and true for all of our children. Within Lowell Public Schools, we say it is a fundamental civil right for our children to have a high-quality education. It is not a privilege that can be denied, as we so often want to say, such a privilege to go to school. No, this is our youngsters' fundamental right to be in the classroom, and it is their right to receive a high-quality education. Erika shared with us a statement that the greatest predictor of college success is success in college. Should go without saying. Do well in college, you're going to do well in college. But yet that seems to be a bit of a foreign concept for us in public education, a disconnect between higher education and secondary education. I heard Deb spoke pretty eloquently about the messiness of trying to create these opportunities. Our high school rosters do not line up with college scheduling. The needs and desires of our ninth graders do not necessarily line up with the needs and desires that our colleges are accustomed to serving with the needs of freshmen in college. But again, if you look to your left, look to your right, the opportunity to solve that, the skill to solve that, right here within this room. All it simply takes is our desire to do so, the will to do so, the recognition that all of us are successful in some ways, despite the environments around us, not because of them. That all of us in this room have found success around these tables, but there are far too many who have not yet realized that success. That there is opportunity in will and skill within this room to change those opportunities, to change that life trajectory, to take that plate that is tilted against our children and tilt it in their favor. So they're not climbing uphill like Brian shared with us he had to do far too often, but instead they're running downhill right into the future that's available for them after graduation from high school. The commissioner shared with us that there are two silver bullets. Two silver bullets. Early learning and early college. We've known these for how long, Commissioner?
Long time.
Question is, what are we going to do about it? Is there a desire? Is there the will within all of us to give up those things that we hold dear, to change things for our young people? Luis is going to speak in a moment. He's going to share with you a story that's far more compelling than what I can share with you. The story he's going to share with you is about an opportunity to be a Lowell High School student and to also be a student at Middlesex Community College. Now, the high school that Michael Fiato leads at Lowell High School is half a mile from the Middlesex Community College campus. Half a mile. From Michael's high school at Lowell High School to Phil's Community College, I do that walk fairly regularly. Half a mile is not too far, but in the lives of our children, it's a world away if we don't change it. Our children know they're going to walk through the doors at Lowell High School, and for many of our young people, it's a world away as to whether they'll walk through the doors of Middlesex Community College. Now, it also happens to be a world away in terms of how we built and designed our colleges compared to our high schools. They've been existing for hundreds of years, designed the way that they are currently designed, and every single one of us in this room did well by that design. Every single person that's in a decision-making position that has the authority to do something different did well by the design that is currently in place. And our structures and our systems are designed perfectly to get the outcomes that we're getting. We have a choice to make and an opportunity to make that choice. Are we going to allow the system to exist as it always has? Are we going to protect the privileges that we found for ourselves? Or are we going to shift that plate? Are we going to tilt it in favor of our children? And are we going to make a difference in the lives of our young people by opening the doors for them? You know, coming here to Massachusetts, I started my career here in Massachusetts at Boston Public Schools. I want to recognize all of those colleagues that are around the room, saw many of my former partners here in this room now. From Boston Public Schools to Lowell Public Schools, we always talk about the privilege and opportunity in our communities that are the W's. Everybody know the W's in Massachusetts? We're trying to change a little something here with the early college, and you saw a different list of communities that came up on that map. With my past colleagues in Lynn, my colleague, where's Cynthia here from Lawrence, and in Lowell, we're talking about the communities of the L's and the opportunities that exist within our L communities. And those opportunities mean that if you have a child as a parent in one of our communities, from the time your child is born until the time your child graduates from college, those opportunities are free of charge, they're well served, well placed, and available to you within Lowell, Lynn, and Lawrence. Luis brings another L to the table. And he's going to share with you how he's taken advantage of those opportunities. This young man here, one of the first students that I met when I had the opportunity to become superintendent in 2019. Young man was just on our campus, what was that, Friday? Just saw him on high school campus on Friday. He's now a student at the University of Massachusetts Lowell, already having completed his associate's degree at Middlesex. Drove down here today with his principal. Every interaction we have with a young person is an opportunity to build a positive relationship. Those relationships build within our youngsters that social capital to succeed. And if we have the will to do it, our children will respond by achieving at the highest levels and ensuring that a high-quality public education truly is a fundamental civil right and not a privilege to be denied. With that, I ask of all of you, leave this room not feeling good about the day, because my Sixers will beat your Celtics tomorrow. Instead, leave this room asking yourself, what can you do within your sphere of influence to bring about improved outcomes for children? Erika gave you one opportunity, one option. If you don't have another lever to pull within your sphere of influence, pull this one, and Luis is going to be able to share with you why. Thank you.
Superintendent Boyd, I am looking forward to stepping into my power with you. I think you and I will be able to have some great conversations about what we can be doing for our kids. And you have me so excited to talk about introducing Luis. I really cannot wait to hear how Luis, as a former early college promise student, is now studying at Middlesex Community College. He's studying in business. Any chance I can persuade you, Luis, to maybe switch majors to education and become an educator? Because I think you'd have a tremendous impact. And Luis, I'm just going to do something as one young person to another. Take one deep breath. Only you know what you're going to say, and we're all here to listen to you. Luis, come join me at the podium.
Well, thank you very much for that introduction, and thank you, Dr. Boyd, for that introduction. You caught me off guard, but I'm very thankful for it. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Luis Raul Raudales. I graduated from Lowell High School in June of 2021, and then on that same fall, I joined. I went to Middlesex Community College as part of the Early College Promise program, and honestly, I can say without a shred of a doubt that joining the Early College Promise has been one of, if not the best decisions I have ever made in my life. This has allowed me to not only significantly advance my educational journey in ways that I wouldn't have been able to otherwise, but also I have been able to receive a very unique help that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So, in short, like as you folks heard, I live in Lowell, so going to Middlesex allowed me to get two big advantages of my bike that I would not have been able to otherwise. Number one is that by living in Lowell, I didn't have to worry about living on campus or adapting to living myself independently. I could still live with my family. So I was able to focus more on the academic aspects from the changes from high school to college, which are quite significant. Another one that I cannot overstate is the cost difference. That as you all know, college is not exactly cheap. So having to be able to go one entire year for free I cannot overstate what a big benefit that was, and I'm forever grateful for it. Another issue that the Early College Promise program helped me is that I was able to get, as I mentioned earlier, a specific help. Now, neither of my parents attended undergraduate education in the U.S., so I didn't really have much experience in navigating the undergraduate system here. So I was able to. This is an issue that was mitigated, I'm happy to say, with the Early College program. We had an advisor whom we could talk to. His name is Brandon Wensek. He's not here, unfortunately, but I'm forever thankful to him. I could meet with him at any time I wanted to, and I could ask him any questions at all, from how to submit forms, like health forms and immunization forms, to how to find scholarships and all that. He was a great help, and I think having this advisor, part of the Early College Promise, is a tremendous help that can help, and anybody that's, particularly those that don't have much experience with the U.S. education system, but in general, anybody. It's a great help. Now, lastly, one of the main reasons, I actually just discovered it relatively recently, didn't even know about it at the time, is that if it weren't for the Early College Promise, I wouldn't have been able to study as a full-time student, or at least for some time. Now, I'm currently here in the U.S. with an F2 visa. This is a student codependent visa. My father is an international student. He's an F1 student, currently at Northern Essex Community College. So with the F2 visa, you are able to study, but you can only do so on a part-time basis. So that's why I'm currently in the University of Massachusetts Lowell, taking 3 classes, which I'm not complaining about. It's a nice way to adapt, but also it's a limitation that I have. This is a limitation, however, that I didn't have while I was in the Early College Promise program, because all the classes are technically counted as dual enrollment classes, so I was able to study a full course load without any limits. This allowed me, as Dr. Boyd mentioned, to get my associates in 1 year, which I still have a hard time believing myself sometimes. So this is, as I said, it's a very unique opportunity that I won't have been able to get otherwise. So I'm very thankful to the Early College Promise program. I'm very thankful to anybody that's to everybody that's pushed for it. I'm very thankful to all of you for being here and for giving me the opportunity to speak here. And I hope it continues to go nowhere but up. Well, thank you very much.
Luis, you are a testament to the power of early college, but also to your family. They should be incredibly proud of you. In your reflections, we heard everything from access to opportunity, but I also heard some advocacy there with respect to the limitations that we've artificially placed on students like yourself to even attain more. And I think that the superintendent put out a challenge to us, and these are conversations that we can be having with members of the federal delegation about how sometimes we might be hindering our students who are here with varying degrees of immigration status. So I appreciate you really raising up that limitation, and that's something that we should all own and be willing to have conversations with the members of our delegation here in Massachusetts with. And the only thing better than having one student on the speaking program is having two. And today we have another student who is with us, and that is Patrick Sainato. He is currently an early college promise student who finished his degree at Haverhill High School. Congratulations, back in June. And the term is Hilly, right? You're a Hilly? Okay, all right then. Well, I have to say, I would love to make an introduction to your state representative, Andy Vargas. I'm sure he would love to hear your story, as he's a big supporter of this program. But Patrick is currently enrolled as a promise student at Northern Essex Community College. He's studying biology, and he's expected to graduate in the summer of 2023 with an associate's degree and eventually go to UMass Lowell so that he can continue his studies to become a doctor. Patrick, very interested in hearing what you have to say. Join us.
Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me? All good? All right. My name is Patrick Sainato, as you've heard from Manny. I am an early college promise program student from Northern Essex. One of the things that really impressed me about this room of people is that you can tell when somebody has a passion about something because they speak so differently. I've been to 6 graduations in my life because of the Haverhill Band. And a lot of the administrators who end up speaking at the graduation, you know, it can get very monotonous, and it can be, you can tell that sometimes there's a little bit of a lack of oomph. But really today in this room, I've heard some incredible stories, and everyone is personally involved in this program, and it really shows. I hope that I can reciprocate that energy. When I was young, I've always had a plan as to what I wanted to do, whether it be computer science, teacher, musician, or currently a doctor. I've always worked towards one path or another. As a freshman in the high school, at Haverhill High School in the IT Academy, I realized quickly that I needed to change, and I was inspired by my mother, who is a first-generation college student and currently works as an ICU nurse, who was my biggest inspiration of my life. Every night, she used to read stories to me about her family, about folk tales that she grew up with, and it was always an immense amount of love. I remember taking afternoon naps with her while I read my children's stories and she read her nursing textbooks. However, this inspired me in my junior year through the pandemic to earn my CNA, or Certified Nursing Assistant certification, and I was also the first in my class. Ever since, I have been pursuing the field of medicine, and I have started working with my mother at Holy Family in the emergency room, and I came to a predicament. Now what? I had always had a plan, but I didn't really know how to go about medical school. See, the thing about medical school is it's obviously very, very hard, but it's also very costly. And finding a way to get there can be costly in and of itself. And in my senior year, I found out about the early college program. I remember as I was strolling past the library in the pit, there was an early college convention, and I stayed and I introduced myself to Diane McCarthy, who is a major support in my life, and I would not be here today standing here without her. So I want to extend my thank you to her. And I ended up joining the early college program and finding a lot of freedom, but I also really loved it because it had responsibility that came along with it. I had a modified schedule, which was very different from a lot of students, and as I believe it was Deb, as Deb mentioned, I was able to walk around school saying, hey, see ya. Now I'm out of lunch and you guys have to stay here for the rest of the day. I really enjoyed being a part of the early college program and wearing my Northern Essex Community College license or identification on my sleeve. And I quickly met a lot of really amazing people and even got to plan a trip to France because of it. And it was just an amazing time. It also allowed me to pursue a lot of other projects that I'm passionate about. In middle school, I had a really tough time as I found that there was not a lot of support for people like me, young queer individuals. And I decided that I would make that support within my community. So with the extra time that I got from that hour and a half at the end of the day, I ended up organizing and running Hunking's GSA Club. And not only is it something that I wish that I had, but it's really something that I found that these students were hurting and they needed help too. However, I never would have had this time if I had been taking a traditional high school pathway, and I wouldn't have been able to be introduced to emergency medicine through my EMT program. In my senior year, I also, during that hour and a half, had personal meetings with my EMT teacher. I also attended a weekly EMT class from 6 to 10 p.m. every Wednesday, sorry. And it was definitely tough. It was really tough, but having that extra cushion of time between that class or college classes really helped me be able to fit everything in, get my homework done, be a responsible student, but also come home at the end of the day feeling fulfilled and like I was working towards something meaningful. I mentioned that I now work in the emergency room in the same hospital as my mother, and I would not have been able to do that if I didn't have the opportunities provided for me through the early college program. And it has really changed the trajectory of my life. The Promise program has allowed me to attend a full year at Northern Essex for no charge. And it really alleviates the financial barriers of college, as so many of you have mentioned. I would also like to extend my utmost gratitude to my middle school health teacher, Miss Curry. She is not only the reason that I survived middle school, but she's the reason that I prospered through middle school and became what I am today. So I thank you all for giving me your time, and I hope that we will all have a successful, productive year.
Patrick, simply incredible. Such a powerful testimonial. And as I reflect on your remarks, I can't help but think about the social emotional learning that you've done, the integrations of your career pathways, the flexibility that the early college program has provided you. This is about disruption and innovation. This is changing the game for our kids. And that's why I'm so thrilled to bring up our next speaker, my dear friend, the chairman himself, Chris Gabrieli. The chairman, Chris, you've been a leader, a driving force when it comes to early college, both on the board and behind the scenes. And you believe in this program because you know the power that it has. These student experiences, these stories, you've immersed yourself in the success of early college, not only here in the Commonwealth, but nationally and across the country. And it is your desire to push for a vision for this program, a vision that is bold. That is what has led to so many others being willing to be brave and to say that we are going to bridge across silos, that we are going to work with our counterparts, whether we are on the board of Department of Elementary and Secondary Education or higher education or career workforce development, We need to be putting forward policies and investments and programs that are going to benefit our students. And I'm so thrilled to be one of your partners in this work, and I look forward to the partnership that we'll enjoy. Chris, I ask you to join me here at the podium.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. I'm the closeout, I think. I think you're going to do the absolute closeout. Your line about ditto reminded me of a line I heard long ago when you speak at this point in the program, which is we're at the part of the program where everything worth saying has been said, but not yet by everybody. So I'm going to cut my remarks really short. I just want to express, gratitude, optimism, and determination. Gratitude, if one started to go down the list here today in this room, so many of you have spoken, would take way too long. But it is remarkable to me to see this Commonwealth I love come together at every level, right? From the students who've spoken today to the professors and teachers who I know do a lot to make this happen, to the administrators at the public schools and at the colleges, all the way up to decision makers in the legislature, the governor, and so many others to fund, to set new guidelines across the boards and so forth. So there's lots of people to be grateful to, the nonprofit organizations like Latinos for Education, like Mass Inc., like MBAE, the foundations like the Smith Family Foundation, so many others. It is hard not to feel a lot of gratitude today. It's also hard not to feel a lot of optimism. I don't know about you, I find the modern period to be a little bit pessimism-inducing sometimes. But when you listen to Patrick and Luis, when you think about, and Sabi, who another former student who has been an advocate and fellow through the Alliance to advance these ideas, when you see a next generation of political leaders and appointed leaders to talking about this, it's hard not to be optimistic that it's within our reach here in Massachusetts to change things. And a big piece of this particular event is celebrating these innovations. And I want to kind of close on this point and link it to the determination. What is being done here? And I really liked Commissioner Raul when you talked about it's not about challenges with students, it's about getting the adults organized. And Superintendent Boyd, when you challenged people to say, are we going to do things differently? These two innovations that we're talking about today, to have a high school located on a college campus and for the system to figure out how to do that, as well as what you're doing in Lowell and across many, again, both places doing lots of other things too, but in particular, the idea that a student is allowed to stay one more year in the province of the K-12 system so they can further themselves with the support of the high school, but primarily at the college, and to do what Luis has done, and to go farther than our arbitrary regulations apparently allow him to do once he leaves. These are real changes to systems that are struggle to change. And so for the people in these systems to have that determination, and for those of us with any sort of regulatory authority to help them get there, that's what it's going to take in scale to reach the kind of ambitious goal the Alliance lays out. And that's why I want to close on determination. Mayor Nicholson, the data you shared is data that I appreciate that you were so specific. Sadly, that holds across all of our gateway cities in our state. We've had a big fall off in the likelihood of students going to college. What was a 22-point difference between the likelihood of starting college, the fall after you graduated, between low-income and non-low-income families, just in the last 3 years has become 35-point difference. That is a trend we cannot accept, we must not accept, we should not accept, and we don't need to accept. We have it right here within our hands. So I really appreciated your emphasis. Mayor Driscoll's gone, but when she talked about the need to do this hard and fast, not just to recognize, thank you, President Heineman, for doing it that way, but to say, yes, it's going to be a little uncomfortable if we move at the pace these students need. I really appreciated, Brian, your personalizing it, and so many others as well, but what it means to individuals. I too am the son of immigrants, and I too was told college was within the reach, and it did certainly change my life. I did not understand, I grew up in enough privilege, I did not understand how uncommon that assumption was in my household, and so I've tried to devote my life to making a difference on that. So let me close by saying that I chose to live in Massachusetts. I remain a Bills fan, as an aside. Could be a good Super Bowl. That New England team looked pretty good, though, yesterday, I have to say. But I chose to live here because Massachusetts has always led with its values, has always led with its brains, and has always led in education. We will not always continue to lead unless we innovate through things like early college. Let's go make that happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris, for your powerful words and for that invitation to innovate. I think we should all accept that challenge. And I want to thank everybody today for their attention, for their time, for their participation. I want to thank North Shore Community College, the Lynn Public Schools, the City of Lynn for hosting today's important celebration. And I am optimistic. I am optimistic today, hearing from our state and local leaders, our commissioner, and seeing all of you in this room today. As the Advocacy Director at Latinos for Education and the Vice Chair of the Salem School Committee, I hear about the challenges that our students are having every single day. I don't hear enough about the positive opportunities. And it's important for us to recognize that the data is clear. We've lost thousands of students over the course of this pandemic, and that's disproportionately happened in underserved communities. And if there's anything that I want folks to take away from today's program, we've heard about accountability, disruption, innovation. It's that we need to grow early college in order to achieve this vision of all of our students being ready for college, but also for our college campuses to be ready for them. This opportunity to build partnerships and integration is so critically important. Think about the time that we live in right now. We are in the midst of the great resignation and the great retirement. We are hearing and following the tragic murder of George Floyd from all corners of the workforce that folks are committed to DEIA work. That they want to diversify their workforces. We're seeing that in our public schools. It's what brought Latinos to Education to this table. We thought about early college and the success that it had. We examined the research, and we saw that there was this opportunity to build a racially and diverse, culturally competent teaching force that can inspire folks like Patrick and Luis to become STEM professionals. And so we've been advocating for an educator pathway in early college. And if you think about our Commissioner Riley, who's here today, who joined us at our State of Latino Education event, there's an ambitious goal out there right now. 25% educator diversity by 2030, doubling the number of educators of color. That would take 16,000 teachers. Our goal for early college over the next 5 years is to have 45,000 students participate. Only 35% of those participants would have to choose education as their pathway for us to meet that goal by 2030. So think about the integrations. Think about the need to achieve academically, to advocate, and to support our students to find their chosen path. Together, we can advocate for further investment, higher quality programs, and I'm going to borrow something from Superintendent Boyd. Let's stop thinking about the W's and let's think about the L's in the world. If you were to take all those L's together, you get a W. Am I right? Okay, so let's flip the paradigm together. So that concludes our program for today, and I just have one housekeeping matter left to say, which is that there will be a student-led tour of the early college program. Our gracious hosts at North Shore Community College and the Lynn Public Schools, our hosts Adam Cutler, Nadira McDonald, Heather Fabiano, they're going to be taking us on an optional tour for folks that will have the time. We have some other early college students and participants who are here. I wanted to recognize Sabi. She's one of our early college policy fellows. I met her through our advocacy work, and I have to tell you all, she's going to be a force to be reckoned with. And Sabi, I can't wait to see all that you accomplished. And so with that, thank you all so much for your participation today. We look forward to working with you in the future.